After her $10 million win, my daughter exposed a hidden truth. The heartwarming twist will inspire you. It all started that fateful evening when Emily stumbled upon an old lottery ticket wedged deep in the folds of the couch. "Dad, look," she squealed, her voice light with excitement. Tom looked up from the old engine he was tinkering with, wiping grease from his hands. When she read the winning numbers, the world seemed to tilt. They were indeed winners. $10 million. A victory so large it felt unreal, like an old fairy tale. For a moment, the burdens Tom carried, the late-night worry over bills, tuition, and whether they'd get enough groceries, vanished. But as the initial shock faded and reality set in, whispers began to ripple through the small suburban town outside Chicago. Neighbors who were once smiling friends now wore concerned frowns. Their once warm smiles turned into skeptical glances. Emily's best friend, Sarah, hesitated, her words laced with doubt. "It must be a fluke, right? You should double-check, Em." The weight of skepticism pressed down on Emily, and her eyes clouded with confusion. As days turned into weeks, the money brought them a false sense of freedom, but with it came confusion and resentment. Tom felt a knot in his chest every time he heard a dismissive comment or felt eyes boring into him at the neighborhood barbecue. Instead of elation, the excitement of their newfound wealth faded, replaced by isolation. Emily pored over her dreams, torn between simple joy and a desire to fulfill her mother's dreams of community betterment. At the dinner table one night, the dim light flickered as they spoke. Tom's voice quivered. "Money can change things, Em. We can finally be comfortable." But Emily shook her head, her heart racing. "Dad, I think it's more than that. I want to give back. Mom would want me to help others." In a moment of bravery fueled by love, Emily made her decision. She would create scholarships for underprivileged kids, the very kids all too often overlooked in their community. The initial shock of the announcement was enough to garner a handful of grudging support. But as questions about her motives swirled like stinging bees, relationships began to unravel. At the neighborhood meeting, tension hung thick in the air. Emily stood, trembling yet resolute. As her voice rang out, "I want to help those who need it most, even those who doubted me." A murmur of disbelief swept through the crowd. They rolled their eyes and whispered harsh judgments behind their hands. Suddenly, in that moment, she felt the sting of isolation sharpen, echoing louder than the applause she hoped for. But rather than back down, she pressed on, tears threatening to spill as she clung to her purpose. "This isn't about me, it's about unity and kindness. Can't we join together, regardless of our past?" Their future felt uncertain, interwoven with hope and doubt as the meeting ended in chaos. Tom watched helplessly, his protective instincts rising. Could compassion truly mend the fabric of their community, unraveling the bitterness money had sown? As the evening wore on, Tom held Emily close, whispering reassurances. The night was dark, but a glimmer of hope remained. Would their journey lead them to triumph, or would the shadows of jealousy swallow their ambitions whole? The questions lingered like heavy fog shrouded with uncertainty, yet bursting with the promise of change. Days passed, and the weight of their choice grew heavier. Emily could feel it draping over her like a thick blanket, stifling yet compelling. Each morning brought new doubts, the kind that felt like stones nestled deep in her stomach. Tom, too, was torn. He wanted to support his daughter, but he couldn't ignore the whispers that lingered in the corners of their lives. One afternoon, while organizing her thoughts in her room, Emily received a call that made her heart race. It was Mrs. Aniston, the principal from her old middle school. "Emily," she exclaimed, her voice brimming with warmth. "I heard about your plan for scholarships. How thoughtful. You've inspired so many, including some of my students." Emily felt a rush of warmth spread through her chest. The conversation bloomed into something brighter, a reminder of the good that still existed in the world. Mrs. Aniston promised to help spread the word, suggesting they host a community gathering to discuss the scholarships. "Show them what you're trying to do. Let them see your heart." With every moment of encouragement, Emily became more resolute. But the skepticism of the town still loomed, a thick haze hovering over any promising spark. The next neighborhood meeting approached, and this time, Emily wanted to make a real impact. She composed a heartfelt speech, crafting every word like it was a delicate thread sewn into a larger tapestry. Tom watched her practice late into the night, her determination flickering like the candle on her desk. "You've got this, Em," he whispered, feeling both pride and concern. "Just remember, it's about your heart. Don't let them dim your light." The day of the meeting was overcast, the air thick with tension. Emily arrived early, her palms sweaty, but a fire ignited in her heart. She took in the familiar faces of her neighbors. Some appeared hostile, while others looked uncertain. Regardless, she stood taller than before, ready to embrace this challenge. When it was her turn to speak, she felt a sudden calm wash over her. Emily began with her story, recalling how much she and her mother had valued community. "This isn't just about me winning money. It's about sharing that fortune with all of you," she stated, her voice steady. "There are kids out there who dream of success but feel so far away from it," she continued. "With your help, I want to bridge that gap. I want us to be a community again, not just isolated by judgment." As she spoke, she saw a few eyes soften. It was a small victory, but at that moment, it felt monumental. Some nodded, their expressions shifting from doubt to contemplation. Suddenly, a hand shot up in the back. It was Mr. Thompson, a man known for his stern demeanor. "What's in it for you, Emily? Why would you want to do this?" His skepticism was a jab, but Emily took a breath and met his gaze. "Because my mom believed in giving," she replied, her voice steady. "And if she were here, I know she'd want us to stand together, not apart." A silence followed, one filled with tension and hope, as everyone held their breath. Tom could see the hesitation in some faces. Were they finally willing to open their hearts? Just then, an unexpected force intruded. Sarah, Emily's best friend, rose from her seat. "Emily's right. She has always had the biggest heart. If we can't support her, then what kind of community are we?" Her words acted like a spark igniting the room. A few murmurs of agreement echoed, and a wave of energy rippled through the crowd. Tom's heart soared. Could this be the beginning of something impactful, a way to heal those wounds money had exposed? But before they could fully embrace the moment, another voice shouted from the back, cutting through the air like glass. "You all can't be serious. This is just a publicity stunt." The room fell into a murmur again, the air thickening with skepticism. Emily's heart sank, the wave of support battling against a tide of doubt. The tension intensified, and as voices rose, Tom stood up, ready to defend his daughter. Would he be able to push back the shadows that threatened to swallow their dreams? At that moment, everything felt like it was on the edge. Would the meeting spiral into chaos, or could they still find a way to unite as one? The weight of the community's opinion weighed heavily on their hearts, and the evening's outcome hung in the balance. Tom took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly at his sides. Could he really stand up for Emily in this moment? He felt the weight of the eyes in the room, weighing him down like an anchor. But he could also feel Emily's gaze, fierce and hopeful. "Everyone, please," he called out, his voice cutting through the din. "Before you pass judgment, let us hear her out. Emily believes in this, and maybe we should believe in it too." That stopped a few voices, but others continued their chatter, skepticism swirling thick in the air. Watching the faces around him, Tom noticed the tightness in their expressions. He realized this wasn't just about Emily's dreams. It was about hope for the entire community, a place that had been fractured for so long. "Mr. Thompson, is it?" Tom said, turning to where the man still sat. "You think this is just some stunt, right? But what if we all took a moment to consider what Emily is really trying to do? She's hoping to build something bigger than herself. Don't we all want a brighter future for our kids? Yeah, but not at the expense of our own." Victor spilled out from the back, crossing his arms as if to protect himself from the very thought. "Just because she has money now doesn't mean she can fix everything." A wave of murmurs followed, and Emily felt her spirit deflate. A knot tightened in her throat. What was she really trying to achieve? Was it truly worth this much resistance? "I never meant for this to be about money," she finally said, and her voice cracked just a little. "It's about unity. The last few years, we've seen folks struggle. And yes, maybe I've had my share of luck. But wouldn't it mean more if we could share that luck together? If we could stand together, heal together? I want to inspire hope, not anger." A soft hum of contemplation spread through the listeners. Emily let the words sit, hoping they'd settle into the hearts of the very people she yearned to connect with. Mr. Thompson's brows knitted together, and for the first time that evening, he seemed to ponder rather than criticize. People leaned in, a new energy brewing in the tension-filled air. "Look, I don't want this to be just about our disputes," Tom continued, sensing the shift. "I would rather live in a community where we're all celebrated for lifting each other. Emily is offering us a chance to do exactly that. We can't let fear dictate our response to her heart. Together, we're stronger." But another voice cut through. It was Martha, an elderly lady known for her wisdom. "I admire your spirit, Emily. But how would you go about this? What is your plan?" Her question hung heavily, a lifeline cast into turbulent waters. Emily straightened, seizing the moment. "I plan to create scholarship opportunities, but also mentorship programs that teach kids skills and hope. We could host workshops, community projects that give everyone a role. It's not just about education, it's about building connections." "That sounds lovely." Martha nodded slowly, her eyes brightening. The flicker of interest passed through the crowd like a wave. "But can we trust that this won't just fizzle out?" Emily could feel the shift. She took a deep breath. "I'll commit to transparency. If it means gathering feedback and adapting as we go along, I'm ready." Tom watched the crowd with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Could it be? Could the tide really be turning? But before relief could wash over him, Victor's snarl returned. "Words are easy, Emily. Can you promise us it won't just be a bunch of empty talks?" The atmosphere tightened again, like the pull of a coiling spring preparing to snap. Would they drown in doubt or rise together in unity? As Emily stood, heart pounding, she knew the weight of expectations rested heavily on her shoulders. Could she turn this around? Would they finally choose to believe? The answer hung in the air, thick and electric. All their futures depended on this moment. The fragility of hope teetered on a knife's edge. Would the light break through, illuminating a new path, or were they destined to remain trapped in the shadows of doubt? The room held its breath, the tension almost palpable. Emily searched the crowd, her eyes darting from familiar faces to the skeptical looks that still lingered. In that split second, a realization washed over her. She needed to move beyond words. She needed a plan. "Victor," she began, her voice steady but soft. "What if we all committed to this as a community? Not just me, but all of us working together to make these ideas a reality? Would that change your mind?" A ripple of curiosity stirred among the attendees. Victor's face contorted in concentration, but Emily could see hesitation creeping in. Perhaps it was the thought of shared responsibility that caught his interest, or maybe the idea that they could take ownership of her vision together. "I don't see how we can trust you, or this plan of yours," he said reluctantly, but with slightly less fire. "How can we ensure this isn't just another hollow promise?" Tom leaned forward, his heart racing. "What if we met regularly? If anyone has questions or concerns, we can tackle them together. We could create a community board, hold each other accountable. Emily has certain resources, but she can't do this alone." The notion hung in the air like a fragrant breeze, and people began to look at one another, whispering tentative agreements. Could they really work together? Could they build something meaningful and lasting? Emily seized the moment and stepped closer to the crowd. "What if each of you brought your ideas too? Everyone has something valuable to contribute. We could start small, a neighborhood cleanup or a school fundraiser. Let us show each other that hope isn't just some phrase, but a living, breathing thing." Soft murmurs of agreement began to spread, warming the chilly atmosphere. It was like watching flowers begin to bloom after a long winter. In the back, Martha smiled encouragingly, and even the skeptical Mr. Thompson appeared more open. "Let me show you what we can create together," Emily continued, her voice gaining strength. "I'm not just here to make donations. I'm here to enlist all of you in a new chapter for our community." In that moment, Tom felt a flicker of something so faint, yet undeniable, a spark of hope flaring to life. The once seemingly insurmountable wall of mistrust began to crack, allowing light to filter through. Victor uncrossed his arms, a subtle sign of softening. "Okay, I'm willing to give it a shot, but we all need to be in this together from the start. No favored treatment, no one above the rest." Emily nodded vigorously, her smile wide. "Yes, if we're going to heal, it has to be equal. Every voice matters." Then someone from the crowd, a young woman named Sarah who had been silent until now, finally stood up. I want to help with the mentorship program. I've worked with kids teaching art and music. We can connect that passion with workshops, right? Excited gasps filled the room. Hope began weaving itself into the atmosphere, binding them with a sense of purpose. That's brilliant, Emily exclaimed, her heart swelling with gratitude. The momentum was building now, and she could feel it. All right then, Victor said, his voice firmer. Let us set a date for our first community meeting, discuss these ideas in detail, and figure out how we can get started. As journeying souls began to huddle together, sharing their visions, Tom sensed an overwhelming sense of solidarity among them. A unity that had felt like just a flicker of a dream was starting to transform into reality. Their reality. The future no longer lay in shadows. Suddenly, they were standing on the edge of a bright new horizon. But just as excitement surged, a chill ran through the room when a latecomer burst through the doors, panting. I just heard, he gasped, disbelief on his face. Something's happened to Emily's funding. We need to talk. The momentum that had been building now felt fragile, and everyone turned to face this unexpected twist. What would this mean for them all? The room seemed to shrink around Emily, the air thickening with a mix of disbelief and fear. Faces turned, eyes widened, and whispers cascaded like a sudden rainstorm. She could feel her stomach drop, her heart racing a frantic beat against her ribs. What do you mean? Something has happened? She asked, forcing the words past the knot in her throat. She took a step closer to the young man, breathing heavily by the door, a mix of dread and urgency radiating from him. I don't have all the details, he stammered, glancing around at the gathering. But I heard from someone in the foundation. There's a serious issue with the funding. They're reevaluating their projects, and yours is under review. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Tom felt as though the ground had shifted beneath him. Just when they were ready to embrace the budding hope, it felt as if fate had yanked it away. Under review? Emily repeated, her voice quavering. But I was counting on that money to kickstart our initiatives. We were just about to. Victor raised a hand, composed but serious. Let us not panic. We have to find out what this really means, and if it's true, what our options are. There might be a way to work this out. Emily nodded, trying to cling to his optimism, even as doubt crept in. Yes, we need to figure this out. But inside, her mind raced, imagining all the plans that could slip through their fingers like sand. Sarah, still buzzing with inspiration just moments before, stepped forward. I know this sounds crazy, but if we have to, we can fundraise ourselves. A community event. We could gather donations, seek local businesses to pitch in. A block party, perhaps? Yes, Emily exclaimed, the embers of hope rekindling slightly with her words. People rally around something they believe in. We'll show them that our vision is worth fighting for. But Victor frowned, shaking his head. That won't be enough, not for this kind of funding. We need to convince them that our project is viable, that it matters. They need to see the impact it can have. The murmurs faded into silence, the weight of reality settling heavily on everyone. Emily's dreams felt heavy, like a boulder resting on her chest. If we can't prove our worth, then what? She glanced around at the faces that had started to light up with ideas, now dimmed with worry. Tom stepped closer, taking Emily's hand in his. We'll do this together, no matter what it takes. This community is more than just a dream, it's a family. It can thrive even without the funding. His words resonated within her. This was about more than just money. It was about people standing together. Suddenly, a fire ignited in her gut. She couldn't let fear dictate their fate, not now when they were so close. All right, she said, her voice growing stronger. Let us not waste a minute. We'll organize a meeting right away to get everyone's ideas flowing. We can write proposals, gather testimonials, anything to show them we mean business. We'll prove that this matters. The room seemed to shift again as people began to rally. A sense of purpose, however fragile, took root. Eyes met, and soon, heads nodded in grim determination. Just as Emily felt a surge of unity, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, glancing at the message. A cold chill ran down her spine as she read the name on the screen. It was from her mentor. Emily, we need to talk. There's something else you should know. With her heart racing, she looked up, feeling the weight of his words hanging in the air. What more could there possibly be? The room's energy shifted once again, uncertainty creeping in as everyone turned to her. eager yet anxious for what could come next. Emily barely had time to process the message before she felt the heat of everyone's gazes on her. She could see worry etched across their faces, like a canvas of heartache. Victor stepped in closer, brows furrowed. "What did he say?" he asked, an edge of concern in his voice. Taking a shaky breath, Emily turned her phone towards Victor. He read the brief message, his expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "What does he mean by something else?" "I don't know," Emily admitted, her voice cracking slightly. The words hung between them, heavy with the unknown. "He hasn't elaborated. But if he is reaching out now, it can't be good." As if sensing their distress, Sarah placed a hand on Emily's shoulder. "Whatever it is, we'll deal with it together." A shaky smile crossed Emily's lips, grateful for the support. They had been through so much together, each setback only binding them closer. But this felt different. "Let us focus on what we can control right now," Tom chimed in, squeezing Emily's hand tightly. "We need to prepare for the meeting with the foundation, and if we have to confront this news later, we will. Right?" She nodded, summoning her resolve. "Let us set a date for that community meeting. We need people's voices. We need them to believe in us, now more than ever." As they worked through strategies, drawing inspiration from each other's ideas and suggestions, there was a tangible shift in the atmosphere. The air buzzed with determination, washing away the looming uncertainty, if only temporarily. But Emily's mind couldn't fully let go of the message. Her mentor had always been a beacon of wisdom, guiding her through every misstep and triumph. The thought of additional turmoil sent tidal waves of anxiety through her. What truth lay beyond his words? Minutes turned into what felt like hours as they brainstormed. Suddenly, the room fell silent again when Emily's phone buzzed once more. It was another message from her mentor. "Meet me at the cafe. I'll explain it all. You need to hear this in person." It felt as if someone had kicked the wind out of her sails. The cafe. It was their spot. A place where they shared hopes and dreams over steaming cups of coffee. A place for confessions. "Are you going?" Victor asked, the worry evident in his voice. I think I have to," she replied. Her stomach knotted with a mix of dread and obligation. "Do you want us to come with you?" Sarah asked, eyes wide with concern. She paused, weighing her options. Part of her craved the support of her friends, but another part of her knew this was a conversation that she needed to face alone. "I need to hear him out first. I promise to keep you all updated," she reassured them, but dread licked at her heart. As the meeting wrapped up, she looked around at the faces of her friends, their commitment fueling her strength. Together, they had built something special, and she couldn't let one piece of bad news shatter it. Stepping outside, Emily took a deep breath, the evening air cool against her skin. She gripped her phone tightly, the screen glowing with the name that was both a comfort and a source of unease. "If he has more bad news," she whispered to herself, "then I'll just have to choose to fight back harder." Then she noticed something out of the corner of her eye. Cars parked along the cafe. Familiar faces gathered. The very people who had once doubted her turned advocates rising to support. She took a step towards them, heart pounding, ready to confront whatever truth awaited her, not just for herself, but for all of them. What could this hidden truth be, and would it reshape everything she believed? As she took that first step, uncertainty loomed, but she knew one thing for sure. She was ready to confront whatever was coming next. The cafe door swung open, a familiar chime ringing as Emily entered. The scent of freshly brewed coffee enveloped her, momentarily soothing the storm brewing inside. As she scanned the room, her heart raced. It wasn't just her mentor sitting in the corner booth. The atmosphere was charged, a subtle buzz that felt distinctly different today. She noticed a small group of supporters from her community gathered, their faces marked with determination and curiosity. Her mentor, Jonathan, sat with his back to her, his posture stiff. He looked like someone who had been carrying the weight of the world and was finally about to let it go. Emily approached cautiously, each step feeling heavier than the last. What did he want to tell her? Was it worse than what he had hinted at? Did it involve more than just her concerns for the foundation? "Emily," Jonathan said softly as she drew closer. He turned, his eyes meeting hers filled with the usual warmth, but now shadowed with something deeper concern. "Thanks for coming. I wouldn't miss it," she replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. You said you had something important to discuss? Yeah, I do. He gestured to the empty seat across from him. Taking a seat, she noticed he had a steaming cup of coffee and a half-eaten blueberry muffin in front of him. The warmth of the cup seeped into her hands as she wrapped them around it, seeking comfort. First, let me say this: whatever news I'm about to share is critical, but please know it doesn't change what you've achieved, Jonathan started, his voice steady but laced with gravity. This might impact the foundation. We need to have a serious conversation about transparency and your future. The lump in her throat tightened. What are you talking about? He leaned in closer, lowering his voice as if the walls themselves could overhear. There are figures from the past, things that happened before you took over leadership. I've been doing some digging, and there are discrepancies in the foundation's donations, funds that were never reported. Her heartbeat quickened. Discrepancies? You mean there's money missing? Yes, he nodded. And it's potentially tied to several former board members. If this becomes public, it could damage the reputation of the foundation and everything we've built. Panic clawed at her chest. What do we do? We can't let this get out. Not now, when everything is finally going in the right direction. Jonathan took a deep breath, his gaze steady. That's why it's crucial we talk strategy. We need to figure out how to approach this transparently. The community needs trust, especially after everything you've fought for. I understand, Emily murmured, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. But what if they don't believe us? What if they think we're part of it? Then we show them who we really are. His voice was firm, resonating with belief. It won't be easy, but you and your team have come too far to let this derail your mission. She looked around at the familiar faces in the cafe. Each one had supported her through thick and thin. They had families and hopes riding on the foundation, just like she did. There was a quiet strength in their determination that bolstered her own. Okay, she said, feeling the first stirrings of resolve amidst the panic. Let us get to work. But as they began to brainstorm possible steps to reclaim their narrative, the cafe door swung open again. Emily turned her head, and her stomach dropped. It was someone unexpected, someone she hadn't seen in years. The moment felt suspended, as if everything had changed in the blink of an eye. Would this person's arrival alter everything Emily had been working toward? Emily, the familiar voice called out, brimming with nostalgia and something else entirely. Her heart raced. The stakes had just been raised. Emily's breath hitched in her throat as she turned fully to face the newcomer. It was Mia, her childhood friend, the one she thought had vanished into the fabric of their past when Mia had moved to another state. The years had transformed her. The carefree girl Emily remembered was now a poised young woman, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders like a shimmering banner. But there was something deeper in her gaze, something that appeared both haunting and hopeful. The cafe, once buzzing with anxious voices, fell silent as the community supporters turned to witness the reunion. Emily felt the warmth of their gazes, the mixed emotions swirling around her: curiosity, confusion, and something like anticipation. Emily finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Every memory flooded back: shared childhood secrets, laughter ringing out in echoing hallways, late-night talks about dreams and ambitions. Mia stepped closer, her expression softening. I heard you're leading the foundation now, she said, a tentative smile breaking free, but a shadow lingered in her eyes. I am, Emily replied, her mind racing. But what are you doing here? I thought you were gone for good. Mia's smile faltered. I came back for a reason. She paused, glancing nervously at Jonathan and then at the small crowd. There are things I need to tell you. Things from the past that could help the foundation and you. Jonathan exchanged a quick look with Emily. Maybe we should know, Emily interrupted, feeling a rising tide of urgency. If you have something to say, please. We need all the information we can get. Mia stared at her, uncertainty mixing with resolve. I was part of the board back when things started going sideways. I left before everything crumbled, but I've learned things about those discrepancies you mentioned. There are pieces of the puzzle I can help fit into place. Emily swallowed hard, hope and dread battling within her. Why didn't you come forward sooner? I was scared. Mia's voice wavered. It's complicated. My family was involved in ways I didn't want to admit. But I can't stand by anymore while everything falls apart. I owe you that much. The cafe buzzed back to life around them as whispers broke out among the supporters. Emily felt the weight of their collective attention, and for a moment, she lost her voice. "Mia," she finally responded, trying to steady her racing heart. "If you really have information that can help, we're all in this together. But you need to be clear with me. I can't let my foundation crumble because of hidden truths buried under fear." Mia nodded slowly, her resolve strengthening. "Okay, let us go somewhere private. There's too much at stake here." Emily glanced at Jonathan, who gave a slight nod of encouragement. With one last anxious look at the gathering crowd, she slid out of the booth. The urgency of the moment fueled her legs as they moved, her heart racing with anticipation and trepidation. As they stepped outside into the chilly air, Mia hesitated and then turned back, her eyes intense. "Whatever happens next, you need to trust me. Do you promise to tell the truth?" Emily met her gaze, the heaviness of the moment settling in. Mia took a deep breath. "More than anything. But what I reveal might change everything." With those final words, the stakes had been raised higher than ever. Secrets were poised to unravel, and the path forward was still uncertain. Emily could only wonder, would facing the truth truly save her foundation, or would it tear apart everything she had built? Emily led the way down the street, her breath misting in the cold air as she tried to gauge the depth of the shadows in Mia's eyes. Each footstep felt heavy with unsaid words, as if the weight of their shared past was clinging to them. They turned the corner, finding a secluded bench beneath a flickering streetlight. The night felt thick with anticipation, the distant sounds of laughter and conversation fading as they took a seat. Emily could see Mia's fingers fidgeting, twisting strands of her hair around her finger. It was a familiar gesture, one she recognized from their childhood, simple yet telling. "Mia, just tell me everything," Emily urged, her heart pounding as if it could leap out of her chest. "Whatever it is, I can handle it." Mia inhaled deeply, the moment stretching between them like a rubber band ready to snap. "Okay," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "When I was a part of the board, everything seemed fine until I started noticing small discrepancies. Records that didn't match up, funds that were misallocated. I thought it was just mismanagement of a growing organization. But then, I discovered something worse." Emily's stomach dropped. "Worse? How could it get worse?" "I found out there were connections to people who were, let's say, less than ethical," Mia continued, her eyes darting to the ground. "My family was involved in it all. I didn't know how deep it ran until it was too late. I was terrified. I didn't want to believe that my own family had a hand in any of this. I decided to leave rather than confront it." "Why are you telling me this now?" Emily asked, urgency threaded through her voice. "Why come back?" "Because I see the foundation struggling, and I can't ignore it anymore. I've seen the aftermath of families being torn apart, and I've realized something. I can't live with that guilt anymore." Her eyes glistened under the streetlight, vulnerability breaking through the wall of composure Mia had built around herself. A heavy silence fell, and Emily felt the weight of responsibility pressing down like a leaden blanket. "If you know who is behind all this, we can expose it. We might be able to save what we've built." Mia shook her head slowly. "It's not that simple. This isn't just about the foundation. It's about safety, about protecting those you love. If I name names, it could bring down a lot of people, not just the guilty ones. My family, they could retaliate." Emily leaned forward, urgency giving her a newfound strength. "But if we don't act, your family's actions could destroy everything we've worked for. I'm willing to take that risk if you are." Mia hesitated, uncertainty flickering across her face. "You don't know what you're asking. The last time I got involved in something like this, it cost me everything." "Then let us make sure it doesn't happen again," Emily said, determination hardening her resolve. "We'll do this together." Mia's eyes softened, and for the first time, Emily saw a flicker of hope amidst the fear. "Together? Together. We need to gather evidence, figure out the truth. I'm not afraid to stand up for what's right." Just as Mia nodded, a sense of solidarity building, a loud shout broke through the silence, pulling their attention towards the cafe's entrance. A group of supporters were spilling onto the street, their faces alight with heated discussion. Emily felt her heart race again, not knowing what next would happen. "Do you think they heard us?" Mia asked, her eyes growing wide with concern. Emily swallowed hard. "If they did, we need to be ready for anything." With that, the night deepened around them, and the stakes felt higher than ever. Secrets tangled in the shadows, and the fragile bond between the past and present held the key to their future. Emily couldn't shake the chilling feeling that as they stepped forward, they were falling into a trap far deeper and more dangerous than they had imagined. Would the truth unite them or shatter their world forever? The night was thick with tension, every heartbeat echoing in Emily's ears as she faced the gathering outside the cafe. The conversations of worried supporters mixed with the chill in the air. She turned back to Mia, a steely determination weaving through their shared fear. "Whatever happens, we stand together." "We're done hiding," Emily whispered. Mia nodded, her grip tightening around Emily's hand. "I'm ready." As they stepped into the dim light of the street, a wave of voices washed over them. Emily spotted familiar faces: Victor, Sarah, and the gathered community members, all eagerly leaning in, filled with anticipation and concern. Their unity reminded her of why she was fighting this battle in the first place. "Is everything okay?" Victor's voice was firm, anchoring her in the chaos. Emily took a deep breath, her hands still intertwined with Mia's. "We have important information that could change everything. We need to talk." She felt eyes widen, curiosity sparking in the air as she gestured for them to circle closely. Mia stepped forward, her voice trembling yet fierce. "I wasn't completely honest when I left the board, and the Foundation's issues run deeper than anyone knows. There are people involved, my family, who have been complicit in discrepancies that could ruin what you've all worked for." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Emily held her breath, feeling the weight of her words hang heavily. "But I'm here now," Mia continued, gathering strength from Emily's unwavering support. "And together, we can expose the truth. It won't be easy, but we need to confront the past to protect the future." Victor's brow furrowed in thought. "And what about your family's reaction if they find out?" "Any retaliation they could put forth is worth facing," Emily asserted, her voice ringing strong. "We're risking everything already. We can't back down. Not now." A murmur of agreement swept through the group, sparks of determination igniting within them. With each nod, she felt hope weave its way back into their hearts. "What do you need from us?" Sarah asked, eyes shining with courage. Emily exchanged glances with Mia before answering. "We'll need everyone's help to gather evidence, statements, anything that shows the people in charge are in the wrong. Transparency is key, but we also need a plan to protect each other along the way." As the crowd buzzed with conversation, Emily felt the barriers of doubt beginning to dissolve. They were all in this together, united by a single purpose. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut the chatter. "Emily, there you are?" It was Jonathan, his expression filled with urgency. He approached, eyes darting to the group, then back to Emily. "I heard there might be a turn of events. We need to act quickly before someone attempts to silence this." Panic fluttered momentarily in her chest, but she steadied herself. "We're ready to shine a light on those who have hidden in the shadows. Together, we can make sure everyone knows the truth." Jonathan smiled grimly. "Then let us gather our resources." As discussions sparked around her, Emily's heart surged with an unexpected exhilaration. This was their moment. The following days flew by in a whirlwind of meetings and strategies. Emily watched her community transform before her eyes, a patchwork of unity curated in the face of adversity. Together, they organized rallies, wrote petitions, and rallied local businesses for support. People who had once doubted her now stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to battle for truth. But the weight of fear lingered. Emily could feel the stakes rising with every step forward. The night of their first public meeting approached, a culmination of all their hard work, and she could barely sleep, anxiety coursing through her veins. As she stood at the front, the crowd packed tightly in the town hall, faces illuminated by soft lights. She swallowed her nerves. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she began, her voice steady despite the tremors inside. "We're gathered here not just as individuals, but as a community willing to reclaim our future. Together, we're going to address the truth about what has been happening with our foundation and help ensure we are a beacon of hope for everyone." When she paused, the air buzzed with excitement and support, but her heart raced knowing the struggle ahead. One by one, she invited supporters to share their experiences, shedding light on their own journeys and reinforcing their shared vision. Mia stood beside her, openly sharing her own risks taken on their behalf, each word echoing conviction. I know the dangers, but this is a chance to start fresh not just for me, but for everyone in this community. As hands rose in support, as tears fell in solidarity, Emily felt the cracks in the past begin to mend. And when the time came for Jonathan to step forward and share evidence they had collated, it was like watching the weight of the world lift away from their collective shoulders. Each revelation sparked fire within the crowd, rallying cheers and applause, the ambience thick with unity. And when the meeting concluded, hugs were exchanged, victories celebrated, and the whispers of healing began. Days turned to weeks, and with relentless effort, they transformed their narrative into an unstoppable force, an organization reborn through empathy and accountability. Emily felt the warmth of hope and determination enveloping her as she realized they had built something unbreakable. And then came the day of reckoning. The foundation agreed to revisit their standards, their transparency, and the potential for a new beginning. Emily recognized that the battle may have been won, but the mission for compassion and growth would never truly end. The community had become her family, the familiar laughter, shared hopes, and resilient hearts intertwining in an unbreakable bond. As she stood before them, Emily found herself overflowing with gratitude. In every uplifted hand, every joyful face, she felt her mother's spirit smiling down, watching over a community that had risen above adversity with hearts wide open. No longer just a story of fortune, but one of profound transformation, resilience, and the ultimate victory of love uniting them all. This was their moment, an inspiring triumph that shone like a beacon of hope in the darkness, a reminder that kindness could indeed change the world. There was only one thing left to do. Starving for stories like yours? You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the good vibes. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It's time to share the light.